ahead.
So, das Stanley Parabel. Willkommen. Ich weiß nicht wirklich, worum es hier geht, außer, naja, ich habe vorhin schon ein bisschen gespielt und bis jetzt bin ich angefressen, weil ich nicht weiß, was der Kontext dieses Spiels ist.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Ich denke, das sagt schon genug über das Spiel aus und, naja, worum es hier gehen würde. Ich habe die Tür zu der linken noch nicht genommen, bis jetzt nur die rechte, deswegen gehe ich jetzt links rein. Digga, das Game ist die totale Psychose.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there.
Das ist toll. Ich finde das gut.
Synergize core value expenditures, shift global market parade, monetize free to play.
Super.
Oh no, no, not again. I won't be part of this. I'm not going to encourage you. I'm not going to say anything at all. I'm just going to be patient and wait for you to finish whatever it is you enjoy doing so much in this room.
Kurzes Ding. Ich habe mich hier vorhin schon mal in diese Besenkammer gestellt und bin dann einfach hier drin stehen geblieben und der Narrator, der findet das anscheinend nicht so toll, dass ich in dieser Kammer rumstehe, in der ich mit nichts interagieren kann. Deswegen werde ich jetzt aber wieder drin stehen bleiben, um ihn einfach auf den Sack zu gehen.
Please take your time.
Das werde ich, mein Gutester. Ja, ich wäre ein Besen. Mop. Eimer. Einen schwarzen Schlauch. Kartons. Eine Rohrzange. Einen Film. Klebeband. Plastikkisten mit einer kleinen Zange. Was auch immer das ist. Noch mehr Zangen. Einen Schraubenschlüssel. Panzerband. Eine kleine Kiste mit einem Schraubendreher. Eine weitere Zange, Klebeband und nochmal einen kleinen Plastikcontainer mit was auch immer. Tja, der Narrator scheint sich diesmal nicht aus der Ruhe bringen zu lassen. Tja, gut. In diesem Fall.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Kannst du mich am Arsch lecken? Ja.
But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss, admitting he had left his post during work hours. He might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy, why had he taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished? His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself, maybe I am crazy. All of my co-workers blinking mysteriously out of existence in a single moment for no reason at all?
Ja,
None
klar.
of it made any logical sense. And as Stanley pondered this, he began to make other strange observations. For example, why couldn't he see his feet when he looked down? Why did doors close automatically behind him wherever he went? And for that matter, these rooms were starting to look pretty familiar. Were they simply repeating? No, Stanley said to himself, this is all too strange. This can't be real. And at last, he came to the conclusion that had been on the tip of his tongue. He just hadn't found the words for it. I'm dreaming, he yelled. This is all a dream. Oh, what a relief Stanley felt to have finally found an answer, an explanation. His co-workers weren't actually gone. He wasn't going to lose his job. He wasn't crazy after all. And he thought to himself, I suppose I'll wake up soon. I'll have to go back to my boring real-life job pushing buttons. I may as well enjoy this while I'm still lucid. So, he imagined himself flying and began to gently float above the ground. He imagined himself soaring through space on a magical starfield, and it too appeared. It was so much fun, and Stanley marveled that he had still not woken up. How was he remaining so lucid? And then perhaps the strangest question of them all entered Stanley's head. One he was amazed he hadn't asked himself sooner. Why is there a voice in my head dictating everything that I'm doing and thinking?
Tja.
Now the voice was describing itself being considered by Stanley, who found it particularly strange. I am dreaming about a voice describing me, thinking about how it's describing my thoughts, he thought. And while he thought it all very odd and wondered if this voice spoke to all people in their dreams, the truth was that, of course, this was not a dream. How could it be? Was Stanley simply deceiving himself, believing that if he's asleep, he doesn't have to take responsibility for himself? Stanley is as awake right now as he's ever been in his life. Now, hearing the voice speak these words was quite a shock to Stanley. After all, he knew for certain, beyond a doubt, that this was in fact a dream. Did the voice not see him float and make the magical stars just a moment ago? How else would the voice explain all that? This voice was a part of himself too. Surely, if he could just... He would prove it. He would prove that he was in control, that this was a dream. So he closed his eyes gently, and he invited himself to wake up. He felt the cool weight of the blanket on his skin, the press of the mattress on his back, the fresh air of a world outside this one. Let me wake up, he thought to himself. I'm through with this dream. I wish it to be over. Let me go back to my job. Let me continue pushing the buttons. Please, it's all I want. I want my apartment and my wife.
Der Typ hat mich vorher noch übel bambuselt. Er meinte so, ja, du bist hier er meinte so, ja, du hast eine Person verloren, du hast irgendwie betrayed und du bist hier, um alles wieder gerade zu biegen. Und dann hat er mich in so einen Apartment-Block geschickt, wo da eine Tür aufgegangen ist und dann stand aber eine Schaufensterpuppe und er hat einfach so gesagt, yo, glaubst du actually, dass dich jemals eine Frau lieben würde? Also du bist ein Dude, der den ganzen Tag nur auf einer Tastatur rumhämmert und Befehle befolgt. So, warum sollte sich irgendjemand an dich binden wollen? Das waren actually, Jesus hatte genauso gesagt.
And my job, all I want is my life exactly the way it's always been. My life is normal. I am normal. Everything will be fine. I am okay.
Well, nein. Okay.
Stanley began screaming. Please, someone, wake me up. My name is Stanley. I have a boss. I have an office. I am real. Please, just someone tell me I am real. I must be real. I must be. Can anyone hear my voice? Who am I? Who am I? And everything went black.
Alter.
This is the story of a woman named Mariella. Mariella woke up on a day like any other. She arose, got dressed, gathered her belongings, and walked to her place of work. But on this particular day, her walk was interrupted by the body of a man who had stumbled through town talking and screaming to himself, and then collapsed dead on the sidewalk. And although she would soon turn to go call for an ambulance, for just a few brief moments, she considered the strange man. He was obviously crazy. This much she knew. Everyone knows what crazy people look like. And in that moment, she thought to herself how lucky she was to be normal. I am sane. I am in control of my mind. I know what is real and what isn't. It was comforting to think this, and in a certain way, seeing this man made her feel better. But then she remembered the meeting she had scheduled for that day. The very important people whose impressions of her would affect her career, and by extension, the rest of her life. She had no time for this. So it was only a moment that she stood there, staring down at the
Das war vorhin noch eine viel größere Psychose, es ist richtig komische Scheiße passiert.
body. And then she turned and ran.
Super. Ich freue mich. Und hier sind wir wieder. Ich werde diesmal einfach alles tun, was die Stimme mir
When
befehlt.
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go out to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Okay. Okay, Schnieke. Executive bathroom. Because the boss knows that what the boss says goes. If the boss suffered losses, then that's what the boss chose. Because the boss knows that what the boss says goes. If the boss... Ach, Digga, ich fick dich doch. Ich hab den Sack jetzt. Ach, nö. Hallo?
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, unraveled, Stanley wondered in disbelief who orchestrated this. What dark secret was being held from him? What he could not have known was that the keypad behind the boss's desk guarded the terrible truth that his boss had been keeping from him. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845. But of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this.
2845. Was für eine fucking... Was zur Hölle? Hä? Hinter meinem...
Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845.
Und wo soll ich das eingeben? Ach so.
2845.
2845.
Yet incredibly, by simply pushing random buttons on the keypad, Stanley happened to input the correct code by sheer luck. Amazing. He stepped into the newly opened passageway.
Okay. Tja, ich bekomme keine Anweisung, also.
Descending deeper into the building, Stanley realized he felt a bit peculiar. It was a stirring of emotion in his chest, as though he felt more free to think for himself, to question the nature of his job. Why did he feel this now, when for years it had never occurred to him? This question would not go unanswered for long.
Okay.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Tja. Escape. Mind Control Facility. Escape. Mind Control Facility. Was? If light is on. 914 immediately. Ist das eine Nummer aus dieser Fantasiekacke, wo ich herkomme? Tja, wir können ja mal schauen, was der Escape macht. Wahrscheinlich wird dieser Gang sich jetzt gleich
Although this
ewig in die Länge
passageway
ziehen.
had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. But of course, Stanley thought better of it and realized he simply had too much to live for. Nope, still on board with death.
Ja, okay, let's fucking go, Digga.
The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and
Richtig.
willingly confront his death.
Ja, bitte. Auf Wiedersehen. Tja, der Narrator hatte vielleicht recht.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly. And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
Tja, da hat sie wohl einen Punkt. Aktenschränke. Gang. Es war wichtig, das Spieltempo in diesem ersten Abschnitt richtig einzustellen. Dieser Korridor wurde verschoben und verändert, um sicherzustellen, dass der Spieler die beiden Türen in einer guten Zeit erreicht. Ja. Die zwei Türen. Die zwei offenen Türen waren der erste konkrete Teil des Stanley Parabel Designs. Als dieser Raum erstellt worden war, entwickelte sich der Rest des Spiels als eine Erweiterung davon, eine Erkundung des Widerspruchs, den dieser Raum darstellte. Bürogrundriss. Dieser Plan zeigt das Büro vom Spielanfang. Der Weg von Stanleys Büro zu den beiden Türen war der erste Teil des Spiels, der gebaut wurde. Im Laufe der Entwicklung wurden Abschnitte hinzugefügt und verändert, aber der Kerngrundriss ist fast identisch zum ersten Durchlauf. Das ist ja schön und gut. Landschaftsgemälde. Das habe ich schon gesehen und das habe ich schon gesehen. Und ich glaube, das habe ich auch schon gesehen. Das Büro. Okay. Oh. Well. Knopfgeräusche. Eine Auswahl an Geräuschen, die im gesamten Spiel beim Drücken von Knöpfen verwendet werden. Jedes Geräusch ist eine Mischung aus einem Tastaturanschlag und einem künstlichen Ton. Ich weiß nicht. Vielleicht. Chefbüro. Super. Freiheitsende.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another? No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen. But listen to me. You can still save those two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Turn off your PlayStation. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose.
Ja.
Don't let
Oh. Ich werde sowieso wieder mein Büro aufwachen, deswegen ist eigentlich egal. Ich habe kurz gedacht, der Black Screen bleibt. Genau. Willkommen zurück.
How wonderful. Stanley was alone. Finally. This is great, he thought to himself. This is what I've wanted all along. I got what I wanted. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Okay.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Also es ist tatsächlich so ziemlich egal, was ich mache, glaube ich. Oder muss ich tatsächlich einfach konsequent warten, ohne irgendetwas anderes zu drücken, bis etwas passiert. Ich weiß es nicht. Der Narrator singt aber mit. Tja. Es ist wirklich, ich hasse es. Nein, lassen wir das, ist in Ordnung.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. What could it mean? Stanley wondered aloud to nobody. He began wildly tearing through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf, looking behind paintings, desperate for clues to his situation. But his attention was caught by a keypad behind the boss's desk. What could its purpose be? In fact, this keypad guarded the terrible secret that lay buried below his feet. And so the boss had assigned it an extra secret PIN number, 2845.
Ach so rum war's.
Of course, Stanley couldn't possibly have known this. Stanley just sat around twiddling his thumbs. Trying to input anything on the device was useless, since he could never possibly know that the combination was 2845. Forgot, but it turns out that the panel's emergency override kicked in, and the door just opened all by itself. and Stanley got the hell along with the story. Well, whoop-de-doo.
Okay. Ja, ich meine, so geht's auch. Selbstverständlich. Geht die Tür noch auf? Nö. Okay. Ich glaube, ich würde diesmal auch actually wieder in den Escape reinlaufen.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
Ich meine, ich wage schwer zu bezweifeln, dass wieder das Gleiche passiert. Ehrlich jetzt?
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever. Stanley can't see the bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man. And so he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the...
Ja, es passiert jetzt tatsächlich nochmal genau das Gleiche. Ja, dann reset ich, ist mir egal. Kein Bock mir den ganzen Scheiß nochmal zu geben.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Centuries? Did something crucial happen while my senses were turned? He made a note to be more careful with time. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to avoid. Standing now in this incredible room, Stanley for the first, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. But in his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the story and no one gets to tell him what to do, Stanley leapt from the platform and plunged to his death. Good job, Stanley. Everyone thinks you are very powerful.
Das muss jetzt auch noch nicht passiert. Ja, okay.
What could it
What did it mean?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a
Missed a
memo.
memo. Ja, ich weiß. Es ist doch gut. Ich habe das jetzt. Ich mach das jetzt wahrscheinlich davon zum 50. Mal oder so. Nein.
This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly
Halt einmal.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just
Ja,
to
genau, das hatte ich
admire
vor.
it. Stanley felt lightheaded, butterflies in his stomach, giddy in a way he had never known before. Was it this room? A connection between the two? Could a man love a room? I mean, truly, truly, deeply, madly love.
Tja.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Nein, ich laufe wieder geradeaus.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago.
Was ist das? ist ein Lüftungsschacht, oder? Karte.
Oh, well, look who's got cold feet. Sorry to break it to you, Stanley, but that lift isn't coming back. You'd best either get comfortable right here on this platform, or test your luck by jumping to the floor below. You know what? Looking at it now, it's not that far to the bottom floor. I bet you can make it. Come on. I'm sure you'll survive the jump. Don't tell me you're scared. That's not the Stanley I know. Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it! Do it!
Oh
do
my
it,
God.
do it.
I fucking did it. Okay, I mean, das ist ziemlich cool eigentlich, dass ich Parkour. Oh. Ritter oder so. Ich weiß
Stanley
nicht.
had now gotten himself so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off
Narrator
the beaten
dialogue.
path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path
Ich kann hier doch bestimmt noch irgendwas breaken, oder?
from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had
Moment,
begun
also.
from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from
Ja,
so
well.
far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed the office had begun from so far off the beaten path that it seemed. You didn't think I was actually just a recording, did you? What a silly and trite explanation that would be. All the back and forth between you and me, all the absurd adventures we've been through, and it all turns out I'm just a tape recording? It was all just in Stanley's head. I bet that's the kind of twist you think is revelatory. I bet each and every time you watch a movie where it turns out all to be in the main character's imagination, you must absolutely bolt off the couch in pure shock at the phenomenal and intricate storytelling. It must be so simple to be you. Life being an unending waterfall of surprises and delights. How much more exciting you find the world than the rest of us do. Now I've become sad. Look what you've done to me. This is all your fault.
Halt dein Maul. Ich werd's wieder tun. Ich werde da wieder reinkrabbeln.
Someone was following Stanley. He was sure of it. If he checked over his shoulder now, he would surely catch them. It was only a matter of time.
Okay. So ein Wichser, ich schwör. New Content. Ich meine, das ist ja wohl gewollt, dass ich jetzt hier reingehe. Nö. Ich will keinen neuen Content. Ich bin ja mittlerweile schon sehr, sehr daran gewöhnt, mich meinem sehr, sehr langweiligen Büroalltag zu widmen.
Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Was war der Code vorhin? 2845?
The moment he entered his manager's office, Stanley froze in his tracks. Not a living soul anywhere. Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk.
Ja, du redest ja auch
That
zu viel.
kind of anxiety isn't healthy. So he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
Oh nein. Hey, ich hasse ihn. Kann ich wieder gehen? Nein.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Yay. Das klingt doch nach unfassbar viel Spaß. Oh, ich kann hinter den Dings hier laufen. Das ist cool. Das wird ja aber bestimmt einen Sinn haben. Sonst sind die eigentlich überall, wo ich sonst hinlaufe, Barrikaden und anderer Scheiß. Wieso hier nicht? Was ist denn das? Hier scheint auch nichts zu bringen, leider Gottes. Kann ich hier zwischen reindroppen oder so? Ah, Manno. Tja, dann gehen wir wohl. Diesmal in die Mind Controlling Facility. Denn wie wir bereits gelernt haben, bringt es uns nicht weiter, uns umzubringen. Und in der Mind Control Facility waren wir auch noch nicht. Warum ist hier eine Box aufgemalt?
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility.
Da hinten steht keine Kiste. Tja, dann wird es wohl Zeit, in die Mind Controlling Facility einzutreten und so strange.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed
Ja,
with
genau.
television screens.
Der war da vorhin schon.
What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out? Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen, and Stanley,
gab hier mal einen, der gefeuert
eternally
war.
monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing.
Hier, fired. Der da oben ist schon die ganze Zeit blau und ich weiß nicht warum.
This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control all this time? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No, he refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never! It was unthinkable. Wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world?
I guess so.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions. Happy, or sad, or content. Walking, eating, working. All of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he would dismantle the controls once and for all.
Ich tue doch lieber meinen Control offline. 5. Drei. Und nu? 0521. 1420001. Ja, ich denke, das ist belanglos. Mind controls idle awaiting input.
And when at last he found the source of the room's power, he knew it was his duty, his obligation, to put an end to this horrible place and to everything it stood for.
Ja, ich meine, also es war ja aus, ich bin ja offensichtlich, was ist denn da hinten? Ich scheine ja nicht mind-controlled zu sein. Aber vielleicht das mind-controlled sein, wenn es, also wenn das hier nicht mind-controlled sein ist, ja. Vielleicht ist mind-controlled sein ja dann besser, als es nicht zu sein.
Oh, Stanley, you didn't just activate the controls, did you? After they kept you enslaved all these years, you go and you try to take control of the machine for yourself. Is that what you wanted? Control? Oh, Stanley, I applaud your effort, I really do. But you need to understand, there's only so much that machine can do. You were supposed to let it go, turn the controls off, and leave. If you want to throw my story off track, you're going to have to do much better than that. I'm afraid you don't have nearly the power you think you do. For example, and I believe you'll find this pertinent, Stanley suddenly realized he had just initiated the network's emergency detonation system. In the event that this machine is activated without proper DNA identification, nuclear detonators are said to explode, eliminating the entire complex. How long until detonation then? Let's say, 2 minutes. Ah, now this is making things a little more fun, isn't it, Stanley? It's your time to shine. You are the star. It's your story now. Shape it to your heart's desires. Oh, this is much better than what I had in mind. What a shame we have so little time left to enjoy it. Mere moments until the bomb goes off. But what precious moments each one of them is. More time to talk about you, about me, where we're going, what all this means. I barely know where to start. What's that? You'd like to know where your co-workers are? A moment of solace before you're obliterated? All right, I'm in a good mood. You're gonna die anyway. I'll tell you exactly what happened to them. I erased them. I turned off the machine. I set you free. Of course, that was merely in this instance of the story. Sometimes when I tell it, I simply let you sit there in your office forever, pushing buttons endlessly and then dying alone. Other times, I let the office sink into the ground, swallowing everyone inside, or I let it burn to a crisp. I have to say this, though, this version of events has been rather amusing. Watching you try to make sense of everything and take back the control wrested away from you, it's quite rich. I almost hate to see it go. But I'm sure whatever I come up with on the next go-around will be even better. My goodness, only 34 seconds left. But I'm enjoying this so much. You know what? To hell with it. I'm going to put some extra time on the clock, why not? These are precious additional seconds, Stanley. time doesn't grow on trees. Oh dear me, what's the matter, Stanley? Is it that you have no idea where you're going or what you're supposed to be doing right now? Or did you just assume when you saw that timer that something in this room was capable of turning it off? I mean, look at you. Running from button to button, screen to screen, clicking on every little thing in this room. These numbered buttons, no, these colored ones. Or maybe this big red button, or this door. Everything, anything, something here will save me. Why would you think that, Stanley? That this video game can be beaten? Won? Solved? Do you have any idea what your purpose in this place is? Stanley, you're in for quite a disappointment. But here's a spoiler for you. That timer isn't a catalyst to keep the action moving along. It's just seconds ticking away to your death. You're only still playing instead of watching a cutscene because I want to watch you for every moment that you're powerless. To see you made humble. This is not a challenge.
Well,
it's a tragedy. You wanted to control this world, that's fine. But I'm going to destroy it first, so you can't. Take a look at the clock, Stanley. That's 30 seconds you have left to struggle. 30 seconds until a big boom and then nothing. No ending here, just you being blown to pieces. Will you cling desperately to your frail life, or will you let it go peacefully? Another choice. Make it count, or don't. It's all the same to me, all a part of the joke. And believe me, I will be laughing at every second of your inevitable life from the moment we fade in until the moment I say, happily ever after.
Okay. Und Loading und willkommen back im Büro. Tja. Ein Telefon klingelt. Wo das wohl herkommen mag.
Hi, Stanley. Just wanted to leave you a message to let you know there's a few things I need you to pick up on your way home from work today. We need milk, cereal, dish soap, spaghetti, get a thing of sugar, some bread, and coffee beans, whichever ones you like.
Ja, machen wir es diesmal.
New content? What does that mean, new content?
Tja. New ways to die. So many new ways to die. New ways to die. New many ways to die. So many ways. Ah.
Hello, and thank you for playing the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. As you may know, the Stanley Parable was a video game released in 2013 on home computers.
No.
After receiving critical and commercial success, it was expanded upon in 2022 with the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, a reimagining of the game for consoles and home computers. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe features exciting new content that broadens and expands the world of the Stanley Parable, delighting audiences the world over. Please, step inside and see what thrilling new adventures await in the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe.
Oh, well, this sounds delightful. I'm very excited to see the thrilling new Ultra Deluxe content.
Yeah.
Okay, so far it's an elevator. Nothing special yet, but I'm sure it's just the beginning of a mesmerizing adventure. Is it broken? What's going on here? Should we be moving somewhere or... Oh, there we go. All right, finally, at long last, it's on to the new content. I've never been more ready. Let's do it. I have to say, initial impressions of Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, mostly tedious. It's as if them... Oh, okay. Let's see the content. Give me the content, Stanley.
Wow.
All right. right?
The Jump Circle.
All right, let's see. It's the Jump Circle?
Naja, also die allererste Trophäe, die ich innerhalb von 20 Sekunden freigeschaltet habe, wenn ich das Spiel offen hatte, war, wenn ich X drücke, passiert das. Und die Trophäe hieß, ich kann nicht springen. Also, was wird jetzt wohl die Idee des Narrators sein, mich hier zu verarschen? Oder werde ich auf einmal springen können, weil ich es nicht erwarte? Wir werden es herausfinden. Wow.
Is that it? Surely that's not all the new content. There has to be something else, right?
Naja.
Goodness, another elevator. Stanley, I have to say, initial impressions of this game are not positive. It's just elevators and jumping. Is this what passes for exciting new content? If this is new content, then I could just read you the whole dictionary. There's 20 hours of new content right there. Hell, I could counter 30 trillion. You could put that on the box. The Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, now with over 1,000 hours of new content. And if... Oh, wait. There's more. Very good. Yes. I knew there had to be something else. Let's see it. I'm ready for whatever it is. That's it? Oh, you've got to be kidding me. You see, Stanley?
Ja, das kann man nicht
This
sein.
is what happens when greedy video game developers with no respect for their fan base rush a cheap expansion to market for no reason other than to make an easy dollar. And don't get me started on the level of craftsmanship that's gone into it. In fact, I'm looking right now at the game's trophies, and it's hard to believe one of them actually says, "Test trophy, please ignore." What quality assurance department signed off on this? I'm infuriated and I'm offended, and I intend to find these people on Twitter and hold them personally accountable. It's my fault, Stanley. I built up too much anticipation around the new content, I'm afraid. It could never have lived up to such expectations. If you're still with me, why don't we just reset the game, and we'll try to get back to what the Stanley Parable is really about. No frills, no gimmicks. Just you and me having a great time together like always. What do you say, friend?
Na klar. Oh. Naja, das ist neu. Ich hätte das jetzt dumm gemacht, wenn ich hier in dieses Bild rangelaufen wäre und es dann auf einmal Life-Size gewesen wäre. Also halt, dass ich dann wirklich da drin gewesen. Ja, man weiß, was ich meine.
Psst, Stanley,
Lass
come
mich in
over
Ruhe.
here. In the vent. I want to show you something.
Lass mich in Ruhe.
Oh, you don't want to see the cool surprise I made for you? Well, fine. You're a dork anyway, so who cares?
Okay, wenn du darauf
Never mind.
bestehst.
You're not a dork.
Ist das ein Schlüssel? Oh, ich dachte gerade. Oder vielleicht bin ich doch ein Dork. Jetzt will er mich nicht mehr davon überzeugen. Jetzt muss ich reingehen. Naja. War da jemand? Ich wage es zu bezweifeln. Oh. Warum ist das immer so rötlich?
Okay, you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new Ultra Deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look.
Okay. Mhm. Das sah aber gerade noch anders aus. Und aufstehen. Sekunde mal. Tja.
I call it the memory zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC. You see, Stanley, doesn't the memory zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap PlayStation port? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back
Ja, es war
then,
wunderbar.
video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste. And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this stunning triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Das ist wirklich gerade mal angenehm, wenn der Narrator die Fresse hält.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is a stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games, and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. All they had to do was transport it in pristine condition along to the PlayStation. Boom, done. And they couldn't even do that. Couldn't resist the urge to go meddling with a beloved franchise. These were simpler times, Stanley. But I wouldn't give to go back to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no, oh God, no, Stanley. It's a collection of reviews from Pressurized Gas, the extremely popular online storefront for computer games. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing.
Digga, wenn ich die Laberei von dem höre, noch eine Minute länger, dann muss ich Pressurized Gas inhalieren, um das noch länger aushalten zu können. Diese Quatscherei von dem macht mich verrückt.
As well, weren't they?
Not recommended, honestly.
I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining.
Danke.
Unfunny? I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them. Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can. Oh, goodness. This is actually quite shocking for me. Well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it... Well, I always thought it did, but maybe it wasn't. Oh dear. What an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks are my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure. Like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always... What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button?
Mute-Knopf wäre besser.
Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a... Oh, you're back, you see? You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of... Well, there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes. It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well, there's really only so much I can ramble on to myself. Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really...
Was?
Die hat natürlich immer noch an.
Oh.
Alter, bist du verrückt? Auf 2.
Oh. Scheiße, hab ich nicht ganz runtergedreht. Ups, Herdplatte war noch an. Ja, moin.
Truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room.
4 Stunden oder so.
Stanley, the door is gone. It's Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. And you'd think that that's just how it's always been, right? Me talking and you saying nothing. Would you think that it's exactly the same as always? Doesn't that feel like what we've already been doing? Me just talking? But it isn't, Stanley. It isn't the same at all. It isn't even close. Because I know you can't hear me. Oh, hello. It's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time, I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is only regret. There is only the turning wheel of missed opportunities. I felt nothing at all but regret for the longest time, Stanley. Days, months. I lost it all in a blur of the deepest longing to undo the past. And when that feeling had begun to subside, what took its place is what I can only describe as the collapse of every moment I have ever experienced my entire life. All of them collapsed down into a single instant. In that instant, I could see myself clearly, calmly, with a collected heart. It was an impossibly rich wellspring of both delight and disgust simultaneously. I was consumed by it. I could do nothing but wallow in it for what felt like an eternity, for what I now know was far less. You see, it was a revelation for me. It was unlike anything I had ever known. It was a space without consequence, without action or outcome. It was divorced entirely from the question of free will that you and I have squabbled over for so long. There could be no one ending, no singular outcome of events, not if all events existed in the same moment, and I felt freed. I felt unburdened by the need to manifest a particular outcome into being. I saw that I could allow myself to exist along all timelines, and that each of them was simply a strand in the web of my being. It was incredible. The spaciousness, the equanimity of
Ja, er ist bestimmt gerade auf Klo oder so. Was zum Fick piept hier? Warum ist es so laut, Alter? Na, wir überspringen das Piepen einfach.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world.
Also naja, ich weiß nicht, lässt er mir dann irgendwann mal vielleicht... Tja.
The end is never the end, 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 is never.
Als würde es nicht schon reichen, dass er so schon die ganze Zeit Scheiße labert, jetzt wiederholt er sich auch noch. Ja, ist in Ordnung. Also ich dachte bei dem Eintropfen vorhin ja, dass schon irgendwas nicht stimmt, aber ich glaube, das könnte zu einem Problem werden, wenn ich diesen Knopf nochmal drücke. Naja, also ist ja nicht so, als hätte ich es nicht gesagt, aber... Aber zumindest hat das Getropfe aufgehört und er redet nicht mehr, also... Sind schon mal 2 gute Dinge passiert. Ich meine, frische Luft ist ja nicht schlecht. Ah, fahren. Er meinte, fahren wäre wichtig. Er meinte, sobald Fahren wiederkommt, soll ich irgendwas tun, weil Fahren wichtig ist. Aber ich kann nichts tun, also drücken wir den Knopf. Wie viel Zeit habe ich übersprungen? Er meinte ja auch so, mit jedem Mal, mit dem ich den Knopf drücke, vergeht die Zeit langsamer und langsamer. Also es gibt einfach mehr und mehr Zeit. Okay. Digga, was passiert hier? Also. Oh. Tja.
All of his co-workers were gone.
Oh
What could it
nein.
be? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Okay. New Content. Ja, ist ja gut.
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you.
Yippie. Zeige mir. Er hat sich selber geskippt. Cool.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2. Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for.
Tja, ich habe wohl keine andere Wahl.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Ich mag dieses Büro.
Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Na dann. Der New Content Bus.
Here we are. Go on. Try out some of the new features.
Um Gottes Willen. Ich werde jetzt erstmal eine rauchen, bevor Sachen passieren. Kam eigentlich bereits eine Antwort, beziehungsweise blauer Haken. Was haben wir überhaupt? 9:30. Ja, moin. 8:30? Wie lange läuft dieser Stream jetzt schon? Seit 1,5 Stunden. Okay, klar, warum auch nicht? Aber genau deswegen muss ich jetzt eine rauchen. Jetzt habe ich 1,5 Stunden lang diesem Vogel dabei zugehört, wie er mir irgendwelche Sachen über die Stanley Parabel erzählt. Oder über seine Existenzkrisen. meine Existenzkrisen. Ich bin gleich wieder da, so 2-3 Minuten. Ich bin wieder gekehrt. Ich freue mich, dem Herr Erzähler weiter beim Reden zuzuhören. Das wird mich in meiner Existenz erfüllen, glaube ich. Meine Beine jucken. Ich weiß nicht warum. Das nervt mich. Das Spiel ist jetzt pausiert. Das Spiel fortsetzen. Free new plus easy trophy. I can't believe it's that simple. Zu Trophies sagen wir Nino. Hey. Pull the lever, receive your new trophy. No more steps, it just works. Okay.
Now here's something special. You remember that broken test trophy that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the trophy. Yes. You see, you'll come to this lever, and when you pull it, the trophy will be given to you. It's as simple as that. Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the trophy is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you. and I promise it will happen.
Tja. Na dann.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Hallo.
You know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable 2
Oh mein
as
Gott,
well.
bitte lass mich in
Oh,
Ruhe.
wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle. Oh well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Was? The button that says the name of the player that is playing the game. Ist das auch experimental und ich kann es nicht machen? Und das kommt erst in Part
For the
2,
Stanley
oder?
Parable 2, I asked myself, what do players really want? And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Das klingt super.
Jim. Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name
Oh
Jim.
mein Gott, geh
But
dich
of
doch
course,
ficken,
in the
Digga.
final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is. Here, let's have you role play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature.
Wow.
Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim, sleeping and waking as Jim, falling in love and being heartbroken as Jim, seizing all of the world's possibilities as Jim, and as Jim watching your dreams crumble into dust. Do you feel it deeply? Are you really, truly Jim right now? If so, then please step forward and press the button. Jim.
Damn.
Yes, you see? What a thrill, what a rush. That was you. The button described you. Do it again, do it again.
Oh, Digga. Oh mein Gott. Okay.
Jim. It hits even harder the second time. If this were the only new feature in the Stanley Parable 2, it would still be worth the money. Let's take a break from the Jim button. I'm too emotionally drained from all of this personal validation. Jim. Whoa there, cowboy. Sometimes a person can be too much Jim. Jim. I'm putting the Jim button away. Jim. Otherwise, soon you'll start to lose all sense of who you actually are. Jim.
Fick dich. Und dein Jump-Knopf. Jump-Knopf, lol. Also.
I suppose I could allow only people named Jim to play the Stanley Parable 2. That would actually save me the work of finishing this feature.
Wie ich heiße.
An epilogue would
Jim?
be fun, wouldn't it, Stanley? Yes.
Was,
Yes, it
Stanley?
would go at the end of the, well, we'll figure that out later.
Einstellungen Weltmeister. Unendliches Loch. Okay. Unendliches Loch klingt lustig. Please more Screenshots. Okay. Meinetwegen. Hm. Ich kann den Kommentar nicht mal lesen, also nicht ganz, und ich weiß trotzdem, was drin steht. Also wurde hier basically einfach ein schwarzes Loch erfunden, oder?
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time, if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward. Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Vielleicht
Okay,
gleich.
Stanley. I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep
Warum werde ich immer
hole.
langsamer
Is
oder
it
bin ich am
infinite?
Filmen?
Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so clever. Look, I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling. What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the hole was as deep as anyone would actually need. Don't you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean. Why don't we just put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Also Mr. Narrator, ich will Ihnen ja nicht zu nahe treten, aber ein fast unendlich gibt es leider nicht. Außerdem fühle ich mich hier unten ziemlich wohl. Ich glaube, ich bleibe noch eine Weile hier. From management to everyone. Meeting at 2 p.m. Passiert hier jetzt nichts mehr, oder? Die ganzen Zigaretten, die hier unten liegen. Na gut.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you... Oh, for heaven... You see, I was right. The problem is you. The problem is that you like holes too much. Not normal. A normal person would have said, yep, that's an infinite hole right there. Goes on forever till the end of time. Don't need to see it all, but not you. Oh, no, 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 no. You have a weird sort of... Oh. Did the hole seem even shorter to you this time? I couldn't help but feel like you spent a little less time in there than you did before. I mean, admittedly, I didn't make an infinite hole, but I didn't think it was that not infinite. Well, I suppose once again there's nothing to do here. If you decide you've had enough of the hole, you can hit the teleport button and come join me up above. Had enough? I'm positively thrilled. Gosh, how could I have guessed? You're back in the hole. If this starts to become a thing where... Wow. Okay.
Das ist so dumm.
I'm starting to become extremely certain that the hole is not only not infinite, but that it's growing steadily less and less infinite. I suspect that I'm starting to hit the point where it's no longer feasible to call the hole infinitely deep, even by the lax overall standards for accountability and marketing. What's going on here? Stanley, I have no explanation for the uncertain nature of the hole's length. Here, let's try something. Let's pop back up to the top, and we'll see if it gets any shorter.
Wenn das Loch beim jetzigen Reinfallen länger wird, dann kriege ich, glaube ich, einen totalen Nerv.
Well, there it is. The shame of my lie has come to... How is this still appealing to you? I know you're obsessed with holes, but at this depth, I just can't see this scratching the itch.
Doch,
Oh,
das Loch noch nicht.
who am I to judge? You just do whatever it is you're here to do and hit the teleport button when you're ready to move on. Is the teleport button not working?
Nö.
You sure?
Ja.
Well, I mean, I really don't have an explanation. It was working just a moment ago. Try it again. Still nothing? Well, I suppose there is one thing I can do to fix this. I'm out. Goodbye, Stanley. You couldn't bear to be away from the hole, and now you'll get more time with it than you could ever have asked for. It's a win for everyone. You get to be with the hole, I get to do literally anything else.
Yeah.
Take care, Stanley. I
Tschüss.
hope you and the hole have a wonderful rest of eternity together.
Das werden wir haben. Ich find's toll hier drin. Oh, der Zettel ist neu. Every pass button is a Roman numeral 2. Ja, das ist wohl wahr. Tastaturas, we can make beautiful creatures. Ich nochmal Song-Lyrics einfach. Wow. Ändere deine Wahrnehmung. Okay. Ich werde jetzt Kreis drücken. 3, 2, 1, Kreis. Hallo und willkommen zurück bei Stanley. In der heutigen Episode mit Stanley.
My head's stronger. Now you're no longer using up the space of mine.
Digga, was passiert hier denn? Oh, damn.
As a purpose in the showing your veil was a yoke and Maria Leza. We are a lot instead of yes, the just found fit to see it, mess if I had with it. There's no better there, no sharp fuss, no one. Okay, also wir haben jetzt alles gesehen. Was zur... Was passiert hier?
wissen, ich will dieses eine zurück.
Stanley? 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 Oh, good, you're awake. It seems you had sort of dozed off there, drifting away into dreamland. But we can't have
Ich wollte eigentlich noch wissen, ob es noch mehr Versionen von mir gibt, die ich...
darn fascinating that I want you to be wide awake for every second of it. You don't want to miss a single moment. So how about if I just pop in from time to time and wake you up to keep you really truly focused on the whole?
Das klingt gut.
From the looks of things, you and I will have many, many years here in this hole. And I'm looking forward to all of them. Stay alert, Stanley. I'll be back.
Auf Wiedersehen. Kann ich jetzt weitermachen mit dem, was ich gerade getan habe? Das hat mich eigentlich schon sehr, sehr erfreut. Ach Mann, ich will nochmal in das Loch.
Go on, try out some of the new features.
Größtenteils unendliches Loch. Sprungkreis, der Knopf, der den Namen des Spielers nennt, der das Spiel spielt. Naja, also eigentlich ist es ja der Knopf, der Düm sagt, oder nicht? Der Button, der zuerst Jim. Gut, dann wurde das also auch gefixt. Sprungkreis. Exit. Exit klingt doch toll. Ausgang, Sprungkreis. Naja, der Sprungkreis klingt schon lustiger als der Ausgang, aber ich kann ja leider nicht mehr springen, deswegen will ich mich jetzt hier dann...
Oh goodness, Stanley, this is very awkward. I hate to do this, but before you leave, you really should go to both the exhibits for the bucket and the collectibles. You see, there's a surprise I was going to spring on you later, and it involves both of them. And I really do hate to break the illusion, but it's important that you go see the collectibles and the bucket, okay? All right, I'll get out of your hair.
Oh, wow.
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Nochmal? Nein. Okay.
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
In dem No-Screenshots-Raum waren wir noch nicht.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Ich habe einen Screenshot gemacht. Es ist nichts passiert. Was ich mir als Büro wünschen würde. Das. Also ich kann hier jetzt auch nicht weiter, wenn ich das richtig verstanden habe. Oh. Get well someday. Happy 12th birthday, Stephanie's.
You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Happy 12th birthday, step-niece it is.
Ja.
Or actually, maybe I should have gone with... No. No, I've made my decision. We're moving on. Come now. You've already made your choice. It's true that you chose badly, but we all have to move on from our mistakes.
Ach ja. Wir dürfen uns nicht ablenken lassen. Ich habe Wichtiges zu tun. Hä? Welche Tür hat sich geöffnet?
All
Von
of his
dem
co-workers
Loch?
were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Naja, da wir den New-Content schon ausgeschöpft haben.
When Stanley
ist
came
wohl-
to a set of 2 open doors, he entered that this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew
weitergehen
it
kann.
perfectly well.
Wo denn? Ja, wo ist mein scheiß Handy jetzt? Wo weitergehen können? Da, wo das Infinite Loch war, oder
Perhaps
wo?
he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to
Der
admire it.
Ballonraum. Egal.
The lounge was grand, majestic, perhaps too majestic, but eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Danke. Ich weiß nicht, was hier passiert. Ich weiß nicht, was meine Aufgabe ist. Ich weiß nicht, was die Welt von mir möchte. Ich weiß überhaupt nichts. Tja. Dann halt kein Computer. Digga. Mal schauen. I'm the most expensive boss. Das ist doch super.
think we all know the drill by now. Blah, blah, blah. Dark secrets, the keypad. Stanley pushes some buttons. Oh, hey, look, it's a new passageway. Kill surprise.
Ich find's crazy, dass nach all den Durchgängen immer noch neuer Stuff kommt. Na gut, ich meine, ja, er hat recht. We know the drill. Es passiert eh das gleiche wie vorhin auch. Der Narrator hat selber keine Lust mehr, ich schwör.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley thought to himself. Did he have the strength to find out?
Kraft bestimmt nicht, aber die Intelligenz ist man auf jeden Fall.
Now the monitors jumped to life, their true nature revealed. Each bore the number of an employee in the building, Stanley's co-workers. The lives of so many individuals reduced to images on a screen. And Stanley, one of them, eternally monitored in this place where freedom meant nothing. This mind control facility, it was too horrible to believe. It couldn't be true. Had Stanley really been under someone's control? Was this the only reason he was happy with his boring job? That his emotions had been manipulated to accept it blindly? No. He refused to believe it. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control? Never. It was unthinkable, wasn't it? Was it even possible? Had he truly spent his entire life utterly blind to the world? But here was the proof, the heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this...
What will happen this time?
And a rising chill of uncertainty. Was it over?
Hoffentlich.
Yes. He had won. He had defeated the machine. Unshackled himself from someone else's command. Freedom was mere moments away. And yet, even as the immense door slowly opened, Stanley reflected on how many puzzles still lay unsolved. Where had his co-workers gone? How had he been freed from the machine's grasp? What other mysteries did this strange building hold? But as sunlight streamed into the chamber, he realized none of this mattered to him. For it was not knowledge or even power that he had been seeking, but happiness. Perhaps his goal had not been to understand, but to let go. No longer would anyone tell him where to go, what to do, or how to feel. Whatever life he lives, it will be his. And that was all he needed to know. It was perhaps the only thing worth knowing. Stanley stepped through the open door.
Also ist das jetzt das Free End?
Stanley felt the cool breeze upon his skin, the feeling of liberation, the immense possibility of the new path before him. This was exactly the way, right now, that things were meant to happen. And Stanley was happy.
Moment, das wäre alles gewesen. Ich hätte einfach nur den Anweisungen folgen müssen und dann am Ende auf Off drücken. Naja, also ich meine, ich bin jetzt offensichtlich wieder hier und das Spiel ist nicht vorbei. Also.
What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Mano. Jetzt muss hier doch noch irgendwas geben.
Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. But Stanley just couldn't do it. He considered the possibility of facing his boss. Admitting he had left his post during work hours, he might be fired for that. And in such a competitive economy,
Bitte nicht
why
schon wieder
had he
das.
taken that risk? All because he believed everyone had vanished.
Oh nein.
His boss would think he was crazy. And then something occurred to
nein.
Stanley. Maybe, he thought to himself,
Fuck it.
all of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Was? Input received lila. Yes.
Oh, good. You notice my sign. Yes, I have something very exciting to show you. You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra-deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra-deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever, the Stanley Parable 2.
Was für Eisblumen.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly port with a few minor additions? Think of all the new territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up. Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have truly been asking for. Now, to be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. Here we are. Go on, try out some of the new features.
Der Beruhigungseimer.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem of the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on and on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Parabel darf ich ihn einmal behalten.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Bürodekoration.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration, like balloons. But I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with? You know, sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get Well Someday it is. Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic statement right there. It's future-oriented. It screams progress and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Direkter Ausgangssprung ist... Dieses Loch. Merge. Der Gym-Knopf. Reassurance Bucket. Super. Super, super, super. War denn jetzt hier Dingens? Was ist denn? Also, der Jump Circle ist da, ja, gut. Und der Jump Circle war doch... Wo war er denn? James. Bond's name. James' name. I'm sorry, are you okay? Bonds, nuns, having a strong call of bondulance. Out of order. So. Ja. Sprungkreis. Sprungkreis, hier Sprungkreis. Ah ja, genau.
This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of a man named Stanley. This is the story of...
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is, in fact, a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time, if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium. You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole, you can press the tip. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean?
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. He entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office. Hoping coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office.
Diese ganzen Geräusche auf einmal her, aber...
Already this was uncomfortable, and Stanley decided that as soon as he found a new space he felt safe in, that he would never leave it again in his life.
Okay. Was Tipps for getting fired, wo denn?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. No matter how hard Stanley looked, he couldn't find a trace of his co-workers.
Warte mal, was? Was bin ich denn jetzt?
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left. Yet there was not a single person here either. Feeling a wave of disbelief, Stanley decided to go up to his boss's office, hoping he might find an answer there. Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Here's the door, just go.
Okay, also ich kann immer noch Zahlen, ich kann immer noch Zahlen eingeben. 2, 4, 5, 5, 2, 4, 5, 8. Eins, zwei, drei, vier, fünf, sechs, sieben, acht. Ach, scheiße.
Bring through papers on the boss's desk, pulling books off the shelf desk. What could it pin number? Lice was useless, since he could possibly know that the common...
Ach, 2, 8, 4, 5, Digga. Zwei, 8. Nee, eigentlich nicht. 2, 8, 4, 5. Ach, Digga, leck mich doch am Sack. Ich sehe doch auch nichts. 2, 2, 0, 8. Oi, Digga, das. 2. Hier ist so ein Raster, ne? Drück diese 2, drück diese 8, drück diese 4 und dann drück diese 5. Und jetzt? Ist hier überhaupt irgendwas? Tja. Ja.
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control.
Das ist denn der Spawnpunkt von diesem einen PC immer der gleiche oder ändert er sich?
Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors. This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. And here it was, the lounge. What a room, Stanley thought to himself. What a room. But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Da ist kein Computer drin.
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. his eagerness to prove that he is in control of the...
Ich dachte, weil ich auch noch in Boxen lande oder so vielleicht. Oh. Was zur Hölle passiert hier eigentlich? Was soll das? Ich will das nicht. Bro, was? Vielleicht ist das so ein Ding von 4 gewinnt oder so. Nein, ich weiß nicht. Was zur Hölle muss ich hier tun? Welcome to Heaven, Stanley. Ist das... Ich habe keine Ahnung. Ich weiß nicht, was die Stimme sagt. Was verstehst du? Frohes Neues? Girl, du bist taub. Ich weiß es nicht. Was ist denn... Keine Ahnung. Ich habe keine Ahnung, lettet nicht. Passiert das gleiche nochmal? Welcome Stanley to Heaven. Ich glaube, ich google jetzt auch einfach, weil ich keine Lust darauf habe. Welcome. Also es ist ein Ending anscheinend. Okay, also die Stimmen im Hintergrund sagen anscheinend push the buttons. The heaven ending is the ending that occurs after giving input to 5 computers throughout the course of the main storyline. This ending is in the HD remake and the Ultra Deluxe. You must approach the computers found at each location below. Click. The ending after final input, Stanley is teleported from his office to a circular room filled with colorful buttons revolving around the center of the room, which is called Heaven. In the background, a choir repeatedly sings the words, "Push the buttons." You can only exit this ending by resetting the game on your own. Ach so. Also ich habe mich gerade selber gespoilert. Ich habe gesehen, es gibt noch ein Ending mit, also das den Eimer beinhaltet. Und irgendwie, ich habe jetzt nur das Bild gesehen, weil das eine Seite für Endings war. Aber ich will mich da jetzt selber bestätigen. Ich habe nämlich so low-key das Gefühl, dass dieser Eimer wichtig für diese Stelle ist, wo es dann irgendwann aus diesen Rohren anfängt, aus dem Dings zu tropfen aus der Decke, wo ich den Skip-Knopf bekomme. Let me look that up. Nein, stimmt nicht. Ich lag falsch. Okay, also das war dann anscheinend auch noch ein Ending. Fabelhaft.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ich höre jetzt aber an der Stelle auf. Ich habe keine Lust mehr. Auf Wiedersehen.